And to discuss a little bit more about the conditionality of the funding, I'm joined by Javid Faisal. You're the spokesman for Abdullah, the Chief Executive, who is also here, of course. Yes, you will get the money. You are desperately in need of that money still.
Yes.
But what must you do in particular to fight corruption, which is endemic, isn't it?
We have mutual accountability framework in place, which means Afghanistan is accountable on how to spend the money. In the same time, the countries who are supporting Afghanistan have their own responsibilities. So what Afghanistan should do is to fight corruption. We have to work for reforms in the institutions. And in the same time, Afghanistan must work for a self-reliance agenda.
And there's also a political dimension to this, isn't there? We've been hearing this morning about the need for political reform, because the political situation in Afghanistan is complex, to say the least, isn't it?
We have a broad agenda of reforms, which includes political reforms, which includes electoral reforms, and which includes the judicial reforms, which will help us. So this agenda has been in place, and we have been working for that. But there is time, and we need more time to make more progress, but we have had progress in the past.
And what has come up this week, which I know is not on the agenda, people are very sensitive about this issue, but the agreement which is called the Joint Way Forward, this idea that, certainly as far as the European Union pledging is concerned, there does now appear to be a linkage with the return of Afghan asylum seekers and migrants from Europe. That is controversial, isn't it? Do you feel, as a representative of the Afghan government, that you've been bullied into that deal?
The Joint Way Forward has nothing to do with refugees. In the Brussels conference on Afghanistan here today, it has no direct or indirect connection to the issue of refugees. But in the same time, refugees is not only a burden on the shoulders of the EU, it's also a problem of Afghanistan. And Afghanistan is acting as a responsible state to make sure we are supportive of the EU in this process, and at the same time responsible for our people to come back to their home.
But the EU is under pressure, isn't it, to return as perhaps tens of thousands of Afghans to your country. Are you able to take them back in?
We have had a series of dialogues and discussions with the EU over the past year. We have come up to a conclusion lately, and based on that conclusion, the agreement we had with the EU, the people who do not get accepted here in the EU, who do not come under those specific categories and criteria, they will be back in their country. But we have certain limits, and we have agreed on how much of them should be coming back to Afghanistan on a weekly and monthly basis.
The final question, which the EU's Foreign Policy Chief, Ms. Mogherini, referred to, she's had conversations on the fringes of this summit about the peace process.
Yes.
The peace process doesn't really exist anymore, and the fact that you need one because the security situation on the ground is still extremely fragile. A peace process is needed to underwrite all this development, isn't it?
I won't agree to the thing that the peace process does not exist in Afghanistan. We just had a very important agreement with Hizb Islami. The guy who fought for 45 years finally agreed to join the peace process. It's a big achievement, it's a big step forward. In the same time, we are willing to make peace with the Taliban groups. Those people who are willing to join the peace process, they are most welcome. But the groups who are still believing in fight, we will be fighting against them to protect our people. This conference here, it's important for peace as well, because if we have development, if there are projects, if there are employment, it itself has positive impacts on the peace process, and we are expecting a better situation in Afghanistan in the years to come.
Javid, thank you very much for your contribution. We'll hear, no doubt.